for you. You're the fire, the refiner.
Hey y'all, so I am back with another video, and if you can tell by the title what we're gonna be talking about today is I'm gonna tell you about the time God told me to move to Georgia. That is a funny story actually. Um, if you know what my channel is mostly about, is I speak a lot about faith, moving in faith, living in faith. So if that type of content like interests you, you know you are in a season where God is calling you to walk by faith, then this is the channel for you, literally. Okay, so I'm tell you about the time that God told me to move to Georgia, how it all happened, what happened, and all the nitty gritty. Okay, so let's get into this. So around the time that around the time that I had gotten this word to move to Georgia from God, I was 17 years old. Because I got saved early. I got saved, not early. I got saved young. I got saved like at, I was like 13 years old when I gave my life to God. So I had been walking with God all through like high school and stuff like that. So it came down to my senior year in high school where, you know, we have to make the choice on going to college, not going to college. Well, I was going to college, but okay, God, where? Right? Because I was submitting everything to God, even down to my college choices. So I was like, okay, God, where do you want me to go? Right? He told me I was going to an out-of-state college. I was like, okay, out of state where? And he was like, you're going to school in Georgia. Now, I did not immediately say yes. I was like, no, absolutely not. Like I outright told God, no, I'm not doing it. Because I, at like 13 years old, had like this 10-year plan for myself. And I was going to go to school at UNCG, because I'm from North Carolina. So I was going to go to school at UNCG, live there for a little bit, and then about 5 or so years later, move to Georgia. Like, when I tell you, I had it all worked out. I had it all planned out. Like, I had my life planned up until I was like almost 30 years old. And then God came and was just straight dismantled it and was like, yeah, none of that is going to happen. None of that. So, and also, so not only did I have to give up my plan, right? But I also had things happening within my family. So for me, that made it hard for me to want to leave and go so far away, because I'm like, God, you see this is going on with my family, that's going on. I don't really want to tell people business. So, but it was just a lot. And I just felt like, God, this isn't the time for me to be trying to go off to another state when a lot of things is happening within my family. And he was like, hold up, they were mine before they were yours. And I have them in the palm of my hand. I just need you to go where I send you. Right? And then the Holy Spirit convicted me again and was like, wait, are you really going to tell the God who you said, I'll go where you say go? Because, you know, that at that time, Bree's song, I'll go, and I can't remember the lyrics right now, but she had us all saying that in her song. And he was like, you're going to say that God that you say you serve, you're going to tell the God that you say you love, no? I was like, wow. So you're going to do me like that? That's crazy. But you're right. And I had to repent. And then I said, okay, God, if that's where you want me to go, I'll go. But where are we going? Right? Because Georgia got a lot of cities. And so I got onto my laptop. I started looking up universities in Georgia, and I was like, God, I really don't want to have to pay more just for being an out-of-state student. So I did look at that in terms of what university I saw. Now, I looked at a few schools in Georgia. I wasn't feeling any of them, and most of them charge out-of-state students way more, and I was not feeling that either, because that makes no sense to me. But anyway, so then I came across this one school in Georgia, this one university, and it is the illustrious Clark Atlanta University. That's where I graduated from. Spoiler alerts. Um, but I came across the website and I was just like, I felt in love just off the website. I was like, I think this is where I want to go. And I started, talking to God about it. And he was like, this is a good choice for you. And so I was like, okay, bet, this is where I'm going. And Clark Atlanta University did not charge out-of-state students more. So I like that. So I was like, okay. So I applied, and that was a whole thing in itself because in North Carolina, a lot of the guidance counselors were told to only help apply to North Carolina University. So I had to figure a lot of stuff out on my own, which I mean, it was pretty easy, but I just thought that was weird. But I did get accepted, right? So I got accepted into the university. Okay. So now let's talk about this. So I got accepted into the university. We wrap up the senior year. We packing up the room, getting ready to go do new student orientation. Me and my mom, we get to the campus. I touch foot on the campus, and I'm just like, yo, this feels like home. This feels like home. And I'm from the country, right? So Atlanta, Georgia in itself really excited me, seeing all the little tall buildings and stuff. Because where I'm from, we don't really have that. So yeah. So I got excited. And like I said, it just felt like home. This felt like where I was supposed to be. Like, I just knew that everything was gonna work out, right? I just knew everything was gonna go good. It was gonna go according to plan. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So as y'all all know, when you go to college, they have this little thing called financial aid. Well, if you don't have the money, you can't go to school. And so yeah, so while we're doing this student orientation, everybody has to have a meeting with a financial aid advisor. This is the holdup. So I have me and my mom, we go in to have my meeting with the financial aid advisor, and we're talking, right? This was about graduated 2016. Well, also 2016, just like in the later August of 2016 or whatever. And we talking with the lady, and pretty much we find out. Now, y'all, I packed all my bags. Okay, I had everything packed, like ready to go. My room pretty much was empty, and everybody knew I was leaving. We told everybody, we had a goodbye party, everything. And we have this hold up with finances. And pretty much I got sent back home. And that like devastated me. Because I'm like, God, you told me this is where I was going to go. God, you told me that you said to me, go to Atlanta, Georgia. This school was for me. But I went to the school, I went to the city, I went to the state, and financial, and like the money wasn't there. Because at the time we couldn't come to agreement about how we was going to do payment for school or whatever. And I'm not interested in taking out a whole bunch of loans. That just didn't make no sense to me. Yeah, so I got turned around. I had to go back home until we could figure out the money situation. Yo, when I say I didn't speak to God for like 2 weeks, right? Um, I didn't speak to God for 2 weeks. Now I know you hearing the story and you're like, well, I thought this was gonna be like a good faith-filled story, and it's like it is, because I'm gonna tell you what happened next. So after about not talking to God for like 2 weeks, not really wanting to go to church because I felt so ashamed. Like, everybody threw this goodbye party, everybody had these good words to say, and it's like, oh, she's back. You know what I'm saying? So I felt ashamed, I felt disappointed, I felt embarrassed. I was feeling all the emotions. And this was like my first time moving by faith. Well, actually, this wasn't my first time doing something by faith, but moving to a different location by faith. And so let me help you out so you don't do what I did in this moment. Um, I feel like I know that I did not handle it correctly, right? There's a correct way to handle disappointment, because disappointment will come, and it's not going to not come. Well, and it's not going to come to, it's not going to come because what you heard wasn't true, right? It's just one of those things of life where God uses disappointment, where disappointment can be used to help you grow, to help you increase your faith, to help you trust God even more. So if it does come, I'm not saying that it will happen to you, but if it does happen to you, let me tell you how I know how to handle disappointment now, and how I overcame the situation even back then. One of the things you really don't want to do when you're dealing with disappointment is you don't want to disconnect from God, right? So I was like 18. So I was like 18, first time really having to leave by faith, like move to a different location. So I was learning a lot of this stuff on the go, in the moment or whatever. But being older and being more experienced in my faith walk now, I'm like, and I've had to overcome disappointment in my Christian walk, even now as a 26-year-old believer. You see what I'm saying? And one of the things that I do, or even back then when I had to, like, pretty much you just gotta pray, right? So I'm gonna give you some like spiritual and some practical ways that I handle disappointment, and how I overcome being disappointed, or when disappointment comes. Because I don't want to say that it's going to come, right? I mean, you're going to have moments, even as a Christian, where things disappoint you, where situations don't turn out in your favor, where you heard something from God and you had an expectation of how it was going to work out, but it don't work out like that. And in the moment, you may not see what God is doing, but I promise you, he's always up to something. I promise you, if God has to reroute you, he will, and you will still get to that destination. Because like I just told you, I still graduated from the school that he told me I was going to go to, even though I went to it a year and a half later. So how did I overcome it then? You just got to get up. Keep talking to God. I had to pray again, even when I didn't feel like praying. I had to read the word again, even when I didn't want to read it. I had to attend church, and not just attend church, but participate, even when I didn't feel connected to God. And the more that I kept showing up, the more that I kept praying, the more that I kept reading, the more that I kept worshiping, the more that I did it, even when my flesh said no, even when my emotions said why. You know what I'm saying? The more that I did it anyway, the stronger I became in the spirit, and the closer I got to God. And that is how I got over the disappointment in that season. And that's how I got over the disappointment. And I just kept going. You got to keep going. You got to keep living. You just got to keep moving forward with the plan that he put in place. So I started off at a community college for a year and a half. And then I applied again to the university, got in, right? Went through the financial aid process. We got the money figured out. And then I was able to go to Clark Atlanta University the rest of the 3 years, because I only had to do 3 years because I started off as a sophomore. Sophomore. No, it was anyway, sophomore, graduated in 2021. And yeah. And so even though I didn't go the first time, right? When I thought how I expected, it still happened. And so even when you face disappointment, even when you face something not happening in the way that you thought, just know that it doesn't mean that you did not hear God correctly. It doesn't mean that you don't know God's voice. It doesn't mean that it will not happen. It just means it might happen in a different way. It might happen in a way that you did not expect, or you did not account for, or that you did not see. Because I did not see me having to go to community college to get to that school. I thought it was just going to be a straight shot there, right? I did not see that. God did. But I had to keep moving. I had to get up. I had to get myself out of that funk. And I wrote some spiritual and practical ways of which you can handle disappointment as a believer, right? And one of the spiritual ways that I handle it is that I remember God's promises to me. Whatever I know that I heard God say, I sometimes have to reread my notes, go back over what I heard, because I write everything down. I write every single thing down that I see. I write every single thing down that I saw. If God gives me visions, dreams, I'm writing everything down. And then which is my practical way, which is writing it down and visualizing it. Whether you do Canva, or you do Pinterest boards, whether you do actual boards, whether you put words all around in your wall, whether you do note cards, whatever your situation is, however you do it, write it down, right? And remember God's promises. Read his word. His word, the Bible is filled with them. They're filled with God's promises to you, right? So read the word and write down his promises. Write down who the word says God is. And another thing I do, like I said earlier, you have to push past the emotion of disappointment and sadness and pray when you don't feel like it. If you need to cry, cry, but get up, right? This is your practical. Get up. Don't stay down too long. Don't let the emotion linger in your mind too long. Because then when you start replaying the situation over and over and over again, it gets hard for you to get up. It gets hard for you to keep living. It gets hard for you to try again. And that will keep you down. So the last spiritual aspect, right? Talk back to the enemy of your mind, to the enemy in your mind. Talk back to the doubt. Talk back to the fear. Talk back to the sadness. Talk back to the disappointment. Talk back and write down the truth and speak the truth. Speak the truth of God's word. Speak the truth of what God said. And speak God's truth. Okay? Y'all, speak God's truth. Remember what God has told you. Because God is not a God that he can lie. And he's not one that fails. And if he told you he's going to do something, if he told you something is going to happen in your life, it is going to happen. You will not fail. You will not be embarrassed. You will not be ashamed. God is going to bring it to pass, even if it got to happen a different way. Even if it got to happen in a way that you did not expect or you did not account for. I'm telling you, it shocked you, but it did not shock God. You did not see it coming, but God did see it coming. If he didn't see it coming and if he was shocked by what was happening in your life, he would not be all-knowing. He would not be all-powerful. But because we serve an all-knowing and all-powerful God, that means nothing happens to us that he does not know about. That means nothing happens to us that shocks him. That means nothing happens to us that surprises our God. It surprised you. It surprised me, but it did not surprise God. And I want to leave you with that, knowing that, living with that truth, reminding yourself of that truth anytime disappointment comes. Like, yo, this shocked me. This was unexpected for me, but God saw this coming. And so because I know that I serve an all-knowing, all-powerful God, then I can rest and I can trust my God to provide and my God to make a way for this thing to happen however he sees fit. And that's it. That's the end of the story. Okay, so I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, a little thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Okay, well, that's all for today. I'll see y'all next time.